in. Let's make sure we get this recorded and let us talk about our topic tonight. So, tonight we will be talking about how to stay on track when going out to eat, but I do have a couple announcements for you guys first. So, first thing is our colostrum release to the public is tomorrow. So, all of you guys will have your opportunity to get your hands on colostrum. I should have it in the mail tomorrow from the pre release. So, I should be able to give you guys a good testimony of it. I'm just imagining probably going to put it in my greens. It's flavorless, like it doesn't have a flavor. But we've done some really cool things for our colostrum. So it is grass-fed beef that we're taking it from, which is really important. So non-GMO, not modified, anything like that. So I'm very proud because that's our first like grass-fed product. So I think it's going to be really great for everybody to have their hands on. So colostrum will be coming tomorrow. Then I know Allison's on this call. She wants to know when the summer flavors are. Unfortunately, you guys, I do not have a date yet. And I just asked my coach today, and she still doesn't have a date. I would be shocked if by Summer Smash they're not here, which Summer Smash is next weekend. So we will be in St. Louis. If all things go according to plan, we'll be in St. Louis next Thursday, Friday, and Saturday for Summer Smash. That's typically when they're going to release it. But okay, you can't quote me on this. I'm 95% sure that our new Formula One clear flavor is grape. So I'm pretty sure that that's the limited edition release at Summer Smash is Formula One Clear Grape. So with that being a limited edition release, I'd be really shocked if they also don't simultaneously put out those other summer flavors. So just wanted to tell you guys that because I have guessed that, I've heard that multiple different times, and I'm like, if they're not being truthful about that, I would be so sad, but they're never like that. So that's that. And like I said, summer flavors should be here shortly after. So with all that being said, let's jump into our call this evening. So we're talking about how to stay on track when going out to eat. As the months get warmer, as we're into summer, this is common for all of us, like, potlucks, barbecues, etc. It adds up. So, how do we have our cake and eat it too? What do we really do? And so I want to go through 10 tips for you guys of when going out to eat, some of the things that we can plan for. Now, this qualifies for restaurants, this qualifies for backyard barbecues, days at the ball field, like whatever it may be. I think it's just really important we have this knowledge ahead of time because one of the biggest things I see people do when they go out to eat is they just choose not to track something. And that's absolutely not the right way to handle it because we want to make sure that at the end of the day, we still know, hey, you got 40 grams of protein left and you could benefit from 2 scoops of level one or some Greek yogurt and some level one, or you have Ninja Creamies and maybe you spin up a Ninja Creamy, something like that. So I've got 10 tips I want to give you to be able to master going out to eat and making it something that's really not as scary as it is, but how to make really educated decisions. So one of my first tips is getting intentional with yourself. If you know, okay, I'm going to have to eat out for lunch today, like where are you going? Make a decision ahead of time and plan ahead and do some recon on your macros for the day. Maybe you want to go to Jimmy John's and get a number nine. That's personally my favorite sub. So I'm like, I want a Jimmy John's number nine. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my lunch and I'm automatically going to put that in there. If that's what I'm going to have, I'm going to put that in there. And I recommend typically on a day like that, leaving a little bit more carbs and fats than you normally would. Maybe for, if I want a Jimmy John's sandwich, let's say I want the number nine, the Italian club, right? And that is pretty high in fat because of the mayo. It's pretty high in fat because of the salami, different things like that. Well, then maybe that morning, instead of having 3 eggs and bacon for breakfast, I'm going to be like, you know what? I'm going to have a piece of sourdough. I'll have some eggs and egg whites and I'll skip the bacon, right? Just being able to be mindful of like reverse engineering that and working it back is so important. And if you're going out in the back half of the day, like let's say that you're going out for dinner, a really great rule of thumb with this while planning ahead is then also making sure that you've hit, about 80% of your protein goal by the time you go out. Because as we all know, carbs and fats are readily available at restaurants. Protein is not as readily available. So making sure that you are looking at the carbs and fats, you're looking at okay, how can I kind of work this in my day? And then planning around it is so important. So just remember that. Plan ahead, do some recon on your macros, and I highly recommend leaving a few more carbs and fats than maybe you normally would, knowing that going out to eat is probably going to take up with that. So that's our tip one. Tip two is always when you have the opportunity, choose grilled versus fried. Okay. Veggies is aside when you can. If it comes with a salad, load up on that. But even if it comes with a salad, dressing on the side, sauce on the side, because then you can portion control it so much better. We all know when we get those salads that are drizzled with dressing, although they may be very great, they are so high in fat because of the dressing content. So making sure that we take the time to really take a step back and be like, okay, do I need all of this or can I portion this out just a little bit? And then go from there. That's really helpful. Something that I also like to do with sauces, and instead of drizzling the sauce on, I'll actually dip my fork in the sauce and then go dip it in my chicken tender, or then go dip it in, a few pieces of lettuce. Now, might be different with a salad, but there's always ways where you can make something happen, especially because dressings add up fast. And if you're not tracking your dressings, oils, butters, things like that, you absolutely need to because those have macros with them too. So again, if you can, choose grilled over fried. So if they give you the opportunity for, grilled chicken or blackened chicken, that's going to be better than deep fried chicken, because what really harms our digestive system is all those seed oils that they use in those deep fryers. They're not good for us. It's essentially like sludge for the digestive system. And I know I've shared this fact with you guys before, but a McDonald's cheeseburger stays in your system from anywhere from 2 to 3 days. So just something to keep in mind. Is it's absolutely crazy, but again, it's not going to be motility. Like, it's not going to speed things up. It's absolutely going to slow and bog things down. So that's our second thing. Tip number three is a kind of also like doing some recon on your macros for the day is, if you're going to a new place, try to see if you can look at the menu ahead of time. I know that when we travel to the beach, I always try to look up, okay, here's these restaurants that we're planning on going to. Let me just do an overview of the menu, see what's there, see what you're thinking about, having, if you can do that early in the day and you decide you want, their chicken wrap or something, then you can work in with with the fries or whatever. Most restaurants also have their menus online. Now, obviously, like the mom and pops, the very local places probably aren't. But if you were going to like Texas Roadhouse, they're going to have the menu online. And you guys would probably be astonished. A lot of the bigger chains also have the macros for the like the actual menu on their website. Like, it's not on the physically printed one, which I wish it was. How nice would that be if it told us protein, carbs, and fats of every meal? Like, I feel like that should be a requirement for sure. But a lot of the times they'll have macros online, or if you go to your app and you look up Texas Roadhouse, it's going to have most items of Texas Roadhouse's menu on there. Now, that's because we've had a lot of people do the work on the back end for that to be in the 1st Phorm app, which is absolutely amazing. But with that being said, then it's also important that, we just do our best, which brings me to tip four. Maybe you don't have the macros online. Maybe you don't have any idea of like the nutritional content. Do your best, but overestimate on carbs and overestimate on fats and undershoot on protein, right? Our eyes are always bigger. We always think there's so much more protein than there actually is. So overestimate on the carbs and fats, underestimate on the protein. So, for example, if I have a cheeseburger, I'm not just going to put a hamburger patty, right? Because there's cheese on there, there's lettuce on there, there's a bun on there. Like, tracking all of those things is important. And I know sometimes people are like, well, I just don't know what to put, so I don't put anything. Well, this also brings me to another tip of mine, that something is better than nothing. Something in there tracked is better than nothing. Nothing gives you exactly that. Nothing. No data, no education, no way to turn around and win the day, no way to figure out, hey, I'm falling short here. I need to, pick this up or pick that up. Something tracked tells you, again, how to finish the night off, if you need to come home and you need to eat a little bit more, you need to have some level one, etc. So when you're overestimating on those carbs and fats and underestimating on protein, you're doing that to then kind of figure out the rest of the day as well. So something in there is better than nothing. And this goes for potlucks as well. Maybe you say that you're at a potluck and you have somebody's homemade, like, I don't know, baked beans or something like that. Well, you don't know exactly what they put in them. Well, okay, but just choose the first black or baked beans that pops up in the app, right? Something is better than nothing there. If you can't find the perfect mac and cheese, just do your best. But again, what you're going to realize is, wow, this has a lot more carbs than I thought, or has a lot more fats than I thought. So I'm going to have to do a little bit of work on the back end. Or you know what? Instead of having a brat that I know is going to be higher in fat, let me choose the grilled chicken tenders, or let me choose this, this certain piece of leaner steak, or whatever it may be. Again, just education, education, education. That's so important. Absolutely, Emily. This is a really good question. So, would I recommend a scoop or two of level one, even if you end up going over on total calories after eating out? So, in this situation specifically, let's say that you've already hit your calories, you've already hit your carbs and fats, but you're under on your protein. In that specific case, I would still utilize level one. And here's why. Because protein has the highest thermic effect of food. What does that mean? Well, the body has to work the hardest to break it down. It actually raises the body's internal temperature. So when the body's working super hard to break that stuff down, it's not only breaking down protein, it's also breaking down carbs and fats. So carbs don't break down carbs, and fat doesn't break down fat, or fat doesn't break down carbs, and carbs don't break down fat. Protein's what breaking down everything because of the amino acid chains that have to be so broken in order for us to absorb them, which is also why you stay fuller for longer, because the breaking of those bonds takes quite a long time. So I, in that case, would absolutely still finish off your night with protein, knowing that yes, it'll put you over in calories, but the protein's going to go to work for you overnight versus those carbs and fats. And if you are finding yourself in that situation very frequently, it means that, hey, let's just do a little bit more work in the earlier part of the day. You know, you're going to go out to eat, be very mindful of that. Like put that protein in the beginning of the day instead of the end of the day. So that's a really great question, Emily, because that's how personally I would handle it. But then also it's education for you for the future of like, okay, if this is consistently happening, like, let me make sure that I'm doing a little bit better with pre-tracking and go from there. So great question. So we just finished up going overestimating on carbs and fats, underestimating on protein, and something is better than nothing. Tip number 5 that I have is don't be afraid to save some for later, guys, right? I know that we all love the clean plate club, but you can ask for a to-go box right away and put half of your meal in it if you want, or a quarter of your meal. I do that all the time where I'll ask for a to-go box right away and they're like, "Oh, are you ready to leave?" I'm like, "Nope, I just don't need or want the whole serving right now." And that's perfectly fine. Just because there's food in front of you does not mean you have to finish the whole thing. And something that I would encourage you to do specifically when you're eating out is I want you guys to think back to when you're taking to-go boxes. What's typically in your to-go box? It's typically not the mac and cheese. It's not the sweet potato fries, right? It is protein. You're taking home chicken. You're taking home beef, turkey, pork chops, etc. You're taking home the protein source. Because what happens is protein is very filling. But if we have a salad here and we have a baked potato here and then we have mac and cheese over here, we're already full on all those other things that we don't ever get to our protein source. So another tip and a good reminder is to eat your protein source first, like on your plate. This goes for all meals. If you have eggs and bacon and you have sourdough, I'd be finishing the eggs and bacon before I have the sourdough. If you have Greek yogurt and you have mixed berries and maybe put crackers on the side. Greek yogurt first, berries second, crackers third type of thing. Just think about trying to consume that source of protein first. And that's really, really helpful. So, but also still, don't be afraid to save some for later. You can put some of those potatoes to the side. You can put some of those fries to the side. If you're consuming that protein, you're going to find yourself feeling so much better, feeling so much more fueled, but then also not bringing the protein source home a lot either, which is really important. So, with that being said, continue to keep that in mind. Okay. We've got 4 tips left that I'm going to bust through. Tip number 6 is don't drink your calories. Do the best you can to eat your calories and not waste them on sugary drinks. This goes for pops or sodas. This goes for flavored lemonades. This goes for alcoholic beverages, etc. So just being really mindful of that because they add up, right? Alcohol is 7 calories per gram, but alcohol is nutritionally empty, meaning it serves no nutritional value for you whatsoever. So drinks like a margarita or a Tito's and lemonade needs to be tracked because although like the fillers or the adders or whatever to it are going to be calorically dense, so is the alcohol itself, right? Alcohol does have calories with it. So if you absolutely are desiring, like, you know what, I just want to drink, like, hey, that's okay. Everybody, enjoys a drink or a fun cocktail every now and then. But a couple things you can do is swap a salt rim or a sugar rim for a salt rim, right? Like those two swaps are going to be much better. Swap soda mixes in for seltzers or diet when that's an option, right? Instead of Captain Coke, a Captain and Diet Coke. Lighter liquors, so vodka, tequila, those things are going to be much easier for your body to digest than like dark liquors. And, drink lots of water and make sure you just stick with water or, something like a soda water or a a LaCroix or a Zevia or whatever when you can, right? Just try to think about like, I don't want to consume drinking my calories as much as eating them. Now, obviously, if you're drinking Formula One Clear or you're drinking something like that, it's different, but just keep that in mind of trying not to drink a lot of your calories. Okay. Couple more things. Tip number 7. Choose simple menu options. A loaded nacho bowl with a million ingredients is probably going to be pretty hard to track, right? If you feel advanced in your tracking, go for it. But a steak and asparagus and mashed potatoes, a lot easier to track as well. If you're comfortable with your tracking abilities, go nuts, but simpler is usually easier. And that's something to remember as well. If the meal is super complicated, it's probably going to feel harder to track. But I also do think, and hear me when I say this, I do think it's important to go out and get something different every once in a while because how many times have you guys gone to restaurants and been like, man, that meal was so good. Like, we should make that at home, right? I think that's inspiration. I think we can use it in a really good way. So, if you do choose something a little bit more complex and then you track it and you're like, ooh, maybe it wasn't as healthy as it could be, motivation to try to make it a little bit healthier at home as well. So choosing simpler options are obviously always going to be easier to track. Tip number 8 is quality over quantity. When you eat out, you should favor quality over quantity or price a lot of the times. There's plenty of fast food places, all you can eat buffets, and food courts that offer fast food at a very cheap price. However, these foods often leave you feeling guilty, feeling unsatisfied. They're usually highly processed, which means they're very high in fat, sugar, salt, calories, and provide little nutrition. They also won't leave you feeling very satisfied. I know we've all gone to a Chinese buffet and absolutely stuffed ourselves, but then 2 hours later, we're like, we could eat again, right? It's not nutritionally doing a ton for you, even if it's so good. But instead, opt for better quality, less processed food. It can be found in cafes and restaurants, and you'll find your eating experience so much more enjoyable. So, back when I was in college, we had a farm to table restaurant. And yes, it was a little bit more expensive, but I always felt so good after leaving there. The portions were perfect. The food was absolutely incredible. And if you can support local businesses like that, that's so important. So I'm not saying like boycott the big chains, but if there's an opportunity for you to get fresher food made, like that's a really great opportunity too. Because dining out should be an experience. It should be a treat. It should be something that's fun, but it also should be something that you put like your hard-earned money that you're spending on that food, like you're investing it in just a really good way. So it's something that Logan and I like to think about. And then our very last one, we're almost done, guys. Tip number 10 here is use it as a treat, not as convenience. Use eating out as a treat that you get to do every once in a while, not something that you're relying on in a very consistent basis. Eating out should be that. It should be a fun thing to do, a date night, an enjoyable, not something you're relying so heavily on that's becoming a 3, 4, 5 part of your week. Often people eat out or buy takeout because it's an easy option, right? Like we're guilty of that too. I'm not saying that like we're above that. We are absolutely guilty of that too. But most of the time, if you make those healthy meals to prepare and save your eating out for a highlight of your week, again, a treat, an experience rather than a quick way to get food, you're going to appreciate the value of home cooked food so much more. But then you're also really going to start to understand or put two and two together of like, hey, I don't always feel the best when I go out to eat. And this is only going to mean something to one person on this call, which is Allison. She lives here in Tuscaloosa. But Logan and I used to love Mr. Chen's restaurant. For those of you guys that don't know Mr. Chen's, it's a Chinese restaurant, okay? We used to love it, but after we would eat it, we would feel like garbage. We would feel like garbage. And then I found out the oils and things that they were using. I was like, well, that's why I feel like crap, right? So we're like, okay, let's, try our hand at making our own food at home. Or we've really started to connect places that maybe once we really enjoyed, but like they're just not using super great ingredients. So treat it as a treat, not necessarily a convenience. So lots of things I want you guys to take away from this. Maybe only one or two resonated with you, and that's great, but hopefully you did take something away from this. So I would love for that, and I'll open it up for questions here in a second. I would love for that to be your homework is tell me which one of these things you resonated with. Maybe it was the planning ahead and doing some recon on your macros, grilled versus fried food, looking at the menu ahead of time, overestimating on the carbs and fats, underestimating on protein, not being afraid to save stuff for later, not drinking your calories, choosing simple menu options, quality over quantity, something tracked is better than nothing and treats not convenience. I gave you, 10 different options there. Please tell me which one you feel like, and this can be in your assessment this week or just a message to me, like which one do you feel like really stood out to you of like, you know what? Never thought about it like that. Or I need to start doing that because I think in this list, I'm already looking at it. Like I know there's things I can take away from this. Summer Smash is next weekend, and I think I have an idea of some of the restaurants we're going to take. Some of the Invictus Core members who are there will go to. I'm like, I can look up the menus right now. There's nothing stopping me from doing that, and I should do that. So I'm definitely taking some of that advice too. But I'd love to hear from you guys this week of what you think really resonated with you, and we'll go from there. But in the meantime, do you guys have any other like questions or things that come up? Again, Emily, the question that you asked was phenomenal about what to do with calories in the end of the day. So what else do you guys got for me? Anything? Nothing at all. Everybody's a pro, huh? Okay. Yeah, me too, Emily. I appreciate your vulnerability and sharing that. I definitely struggle with some of them too. But I think it now that we're putting it at the forefront of our mind and it's reminders, like that's really important too. Again, I'm not saying don't go out to eat. I'm just saying like, hey, evaluate your options and like, is it the best option for you? Is it the best option for your future goals? Or is it something that, maybe we could make a better choice with at home? I feel that in that my brain is pretty fried too. Okay, well, again, please just take one takeaway and tell me what it is this week. I'd really appreciate it. And couple announcements to share with you guys just at the end of this call really quick that I kind of thought of during. The first one is I will let you guys know if we end up having a team call next week. I'm really not sure what my schedule is going to look like depending on when my grandpa potentially passes and what the arrangements are going to be like. I have no idea yet from what I mentioned in my email. So I will let you guys know as soon as possible. I will keep you in the loop. We do head to Summer Smash next week. Thursday. Obviously, if everything is going as planned. So if I could ask next week, Wednesday, for you guys to get your assessments in ASAP, please do that on Wednesday because Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I will pretty much be completely out of commission being present at Summer Smash. And I don't want to wait till Sunday to get you guys a lot of feedback. So if you could get them in early Wednesday, my goal is to like sit at my desk if I am here all day Wednesday and just work on them. So that's the first thing I wanted to mention. And of course, if I am here, we will have a team call. If not, we'll move forward from there. So I appreciate your guys' understanding in that. And all of you today should have received a payment link from our new processor. It's called, I believe it's called Smart Swipe, or it's called, or Simple Swipe. That's what it's called. So if you saw the invoice from the Invictus Court, that is not spam, that is us. And as soon as you guys like will see that, it should tag it as something in your system where you can like keep it and bookmark that email. So it's going to be so much easier for us on the back end. And I think ultimately easier for you guys too. So I appreciate your time tonight. I appreciate your patience in us going over all this and all the announcements. Thank y'all so much. I have another hour block of work tonight to get some things finished for you. So we'll plan on checking in soon. I'll talk to you guys next week.